So Deebo's out most likely.
Yeah.
How do you think the 49ers will replace him? Will they just roll with the guys they have and give everyone a few more targets? Or is Kyle Shanahan say, no, we need another elite wide receiver, we're going to make a big move? Draft free agency.
I don't think this is not just the question of the moment. This is the question of the offseason. Because how do you add to this mix at wide receiver? It's a down year for wide receivers. Even if the best receiver, McMillan, falls to you,
you could take McMillan at 11.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I think he's pretty raw as a route runner. I think he's going to be a rookie receiver who struggles a little bit. So
Okay.
I don't think he's the answer. I don't see an answer. I mean, I guess Trey Harris from Ole Miss is a pretty special receiver in the second round. Maybe you could get him, but even that would be a major risk as far as asking him to really shoulder the load. The rest of the class, there's some interesting receivers, but they're day three, very low percentage plays. I would say that the Mike Lombardi rumor coming out of the Senior Bowl that the Niners could be a surprise team for T. Higgins, while it makes no sense on the surface because of what T. Higgins should command and their cap and so on and so forth, it makes perfect sense when you look at they feel like they're in a go now window, and there's not a go now receiver in this draft. So I think, T. Higgins, I don't think they're going to be hugely active in free agency, but if you told me that they earmarked, a lot of money for T. Higgins and he was going to be their one free agent signing, I wouldn't be surprised by that because you kind of have to. They need a significant receiver. They don't just need. I mean, there's all kinds of receivers, right? They don't need just a guy. They need a significant guy. So
I got a name for you.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is great. T. Higgins probably the number one wide receiver, the number one player in the market this year. I mean, top level wide receiver, number one wide receiver. What about Devontae Adams? The Niners have been sort of interested in him. I mean, they always sort of wanted Ayuk to be him. He'd be a really good fit. He's from Palo Alto.
He's a little old. Here's the thing. Here's my only downside with Devontae is that wide receivers more so than any other position on the team, it all has to make sense. So like the wide receiver that makes sense for your team makes no sense for my team, and the wide receiver that makes sense for my team makes no sense for your team. On this team, you have JJ, you have Pearsall, you have the continuity piece, you have the guys.
And Ayuk will come back.
And Ayuk is going to come back, and we don't know. But the thing is, we don't know what he's coming back as. But he was their deep threat before, and now he's probably lost a little bit of a step.
But if he could be their number 3 receiver, I mean, he'll give them something.
I think Devontae Adams would excite the fans. I think it would be a great name, but I don't think he's the piece that they need. To me, the guy that they need is Garrett Wilson. They need a younger receiver. They need a faster receiver, and they still need that fast receiver to be able to run routes. And that's what Garrett Wilson can do. He runs 4.38. He's a great route runner. There's a lot of talk the Jets are going to wind up trading him. It's probably going to cost, you your next 2 second-round picks and maybe something else. But that's the guy that I'd go after. Why? Because they need the vertical threat who's also a good route runner, who can run the full tree but also can be vertical and get vertical. And I think that's Garrett Wilson. He would give them something they don't have, where Devontae is a good receiver, but as time goes on, he's becoming more and more of a possession receiver. I think they have that covered.
Also with Devontae, it seems like he's kind of a package deal with Aaron Rodgers, who also will not be going back to the Jets next year. It seems like Rodgers and Adams could be going once again to a new team together. And what's interesting is on BetUS, shout out to our sponsor, they have another NFL special bet, and this is on Rodgers' first team on week 1. Where's he going to play? So the odds-on favorite is the Steelers at even money. Number 2 team with the second best odds to land Aaron Rodgers at plus 300, the Niners. How crazy is that? And I wonder, it's like they keep saying stuff like, "Oh, we really love Brock, and Brock's a guy long term." But if things were to go sideways in that negotiation, they do have, I guess, that in their back pocket. I don't know.
It's wild, isn't it? I mean, the Niners are saying that they're all about Brock Purdy. The owner just said, "Hey, we think we can get this deal done." And yet Aaron Rodgers' second choice on the board here is the 49ers.
Yeah.
That really is interesting. I mean, and the odds on January 6th, a month ago, were Niners 4-1. Well, it's now Niners 3-1.
Yeah. What has changed?
Yeah. So I mean, it's somebody. I mean, to me, I used to look at all the writers and read all these articles. Now I kind of like to look at the odds because, I mean, going back to Trey Lance's draft day, in the morning of that draft day, Mac Jones was favored to come to the Niners. By noontime, Trey Lance was favored to come to the Niners, and sure enough, Trey Lance came to the Niners. So, I don't know. I'm starting to look. I look more at the gambling odds than I have ever before. And when you see, I mean, Steelers are even money. Niners are 3-1. The Saints are the third choice at 5-1.
Then
the Raiders at 7-1.
Yeah. And the
Browns. I don't know. That to me is really, really interesting. The fact that the Niners are at 3-1. Somebody knows something there.
I mean, again, like you said, this is their go time, right? This is their push time. And of course, Brock Purdy, hell of a quarterback. Hard to get a better quarterback, but maybe you could argue that Aaron Rodgers. I mean, look, the way I look at it, Aaron Rodgers is a better passer than Brock Purdy. He can't move anymore, though, when he's 41 years old. Brock Purdy has his whole future ahead of him, and he's a hell of a scrambler, hell of a runner. And he's a good teammate and a good guy, as opposed to Aaron Rodgers, who everyone hates, except for Devontae Adams. I wouldn't do the Aaron Rodgers thing. I think you're kind of selling your soul when you bring in Aaron Rodgers, and it doesn't work out. But I don't know.
Something to me says he retires. Does it seem like he's coming back and playing? Doesn't seem like it to me. Seems like he's I could see him either with the Raiders or riding off into the sunset.
The team I'm thinking of isn't even on here. What about Minnesota? Your team is loaded. You have Justin Jefferson. You made Sam Darnold look really good until he turned back into Sam Darnold in the playoffs. What about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I mean, are they? What about J.J. McCarthy? I mean, they also have J.J. McCarthy.
Let him keep on the bench for another year or two. Have him develop behind Rodgers the way Jordan Love did, and bring in Rodgers as he's old, like they did with Brett Favre.
Can I throw one more name out there that I think is kind of interesting? I don't know if you saw this today, but the New York Giants today hired Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law as their quarterback coach. And there's an awful lot of people speculating that the Rams may wind up trading Stafford to the New York Giants. And if that's the case, would McVay pick up Rodgers? I might go Rams there at 18-1 just on that because, they're not going to give up the year, but I could see them moving Stafford for picks. They seem like a little bit, like they got their Super Bowl with Stafford, and now if they traded him, they could recoup some of the trade assets they traded to get him. The Giants are desperate. I mean, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are probably fired if they don't go to the playoffs. You put you put Stafford in New York in a trade that gives the Rams a couple good picks, and then they turn around and sign Aaron Rodgers. Now you got Aaron Rodgers in Southern California for, 1 or 2 years.
Would Stafford want to go to the Giants, or does that not even matter?
Well, I mean, his brother-in-law.
His brother-in-law is there. Yeah, he might want to go.
His brother-in-law is the new quarterback coach there.
Okay, so that's a big one, and they have Malik Neighbors, who's really good, and they could also trade for Cooper Kupp. But they're an awful organization.
They are, but it is New York, and it is. I mean, the networks would love it. I mean, you saw how much they wanted to feature Rodgers on the Jets. True. If you put him on the Giants, an even more popular New York team. Or you put Stafford on the Giants, I should say, on a real popular team.
Okay. So trade Stafford and Kupp to the Giants, and then bring in Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Yikes! Right. Niners better have a move up their sleeve this offseason.
Right. Damn. I mean, that if you're McVay and you've built up your O-line, you've built up your D-line, you've already got the ring, with Stafford, and you want to move Stafford, and they could probably that would be smart. I mean, because the New York Giants would probably give you a couple high picks for an older quarterback just because they're desperate, and you go from old quarterback to another old quarterback. What do you care as long as you keep building? I don't know exactly the mindset of Sean McVay and Les Snead, but when I saw Stafford's brother-in-law as the Giants quarterback coach, I thought, man, is it possible that they'll just move Stafford? It's possible.